we do on this show, I happened to take a little look back at the OBS. I saw a red box, and I got way too mad super fast. So I'm just going to go ahead, and if we're lagging, and F it. And tomorrow, on Independence Day, I may have to go hurt someone down at Spectrum office. Hopefully it sounds okay. We got a new mic on the stand. I'm going to bring it a little closer because this is the mic I actually used to use on the desk. This is no longer the Blue Snowball, although there is nothing wrong with that mic. This is the AT2020 now on the news station desk, and I'll show you why in the post show. As usual, actually, no, that part doesn't matter. What I usually say now is, hey, we're going to hold all questions, and all the alerts are turned off. Although I think the alerts are turned off. They are now. At least the sounds. So we hold all the questions to the end. You can actually ask me a question whenever you want, at least until my phone dies, because it's just me on the show. Today, we are talking about my sort of story since I started. Hopefully my tie doesn't look all messed up today. But we'll talk about my story. You guys have heard some of it as we've gone forward. If you enjoy reading and or hate yourself, you read it all in the Spotlight Streamer section, which was 57 pages long. And so you might know some of it, but I thought it might be relevant. We've had a lot of good conversations actually in the last 3 days about streaming that were really, they're awesome questions and awesome conversations in a couple of different Discords, by the way. So I'm excited to talk about that sort of stuff as it pertains to where I sort of have come from. Some other stream. Oh, hang on. Let me stop being an asshole about my show. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the stuff that's coming up. Obviously, this week is a special week, and that is because it is my birthday on Friday. At least the birthday stream is on Friday. Friday will be a 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. stream. There'll be giveaways of all sorts. I am ordering a piece of hardware that will be a special giveaway, probably towards the end of the night tonight. It will be here ASAP. So that show will be awesome. It'll be all day long. I got a lot of pretty funny stuff planned for it. So if you're around on Friday, you're going to need to check out the show. But there's a lot of cool giveaways involved. You'll find all that information on the Twitter and all that shit. So you can look there. One of the first things we do on the show... Oh, you like that winking kitty, by the way? That's courtesy of Alvara. It's my favorite. So the first thing we do on the show is what's on tap. What are you drinking tonight? Great Lakes Chill Wave IPA. It's so goddamn good. It's a double IPA. It doesn't matter. It's by Great Lakes. It's only available in the summer. You should drink it. It only comes in 4-packs because it's a little bit strong. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about me some more. That's my favorite topic always. So, the beginning. Nope, that would be the beginning. So, when I was little, and I've talked about this a little bit on the show with Wild Bill and with Ichi. So I always ask the guests, hey, how did you start in video games? Or how did you kind of come to Twitch? And that answer is usually different for everyone, but it all starts the same. Hey, we started gaming when we were little. Same thing. I told the story before, but when we were little, I have 2 brothers and a sister, and we got a Nintendo for someone's birthday or Christmas or something like that. And it was the craziest shit I could have imagined. We became obsessed. Of course, we didn't have many games because we didn't have a lot of money and all that stuff when we were growing up. But we had Mario, and I think we had, I want to say Excite Bike, and we didn't have any of the cool games. But anyways, we had a bunch of babysitters back then, a bunch of different babysitters, and one of them brought their boyfriend to the house to babysit us one time. This is fast forwarding a little bit. My God, he came over with you remember Pulp Fiction, the movie? I love Tarantino movies, by the way. In Pulp Fiction, there's a couple of different parts where they open up a briefcase and like this gold light shines out of it and you never really see what's in the briefcase. Just imagine that's how we would look at this case of video games every single day this guy would come over. We would beg for this babysitter to come over. And then when my mom left and went to work, we would beg her to then invite her boyfriend over, which I'm sure... I have children. I would not be happy if their babysitter invited her boyfriend over. Either way, it got us access to a bunch of crazy video games, 2 of which were the gold box Zelda games, which were, oh my god, the first Zelda was so good. The second Zelda I was obsessed with. I know people hate that game, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Side scroller, weird adventure path, hard as hell. I love that game. But they also had all these other kind of crazy games like Milon's Quest, if you remember that. Oh God, I don't remember if Rock and Roll Racing was on Nintendo or Super Nintendo. That game was a huge part of our childhood, though. That and the Tecmo Super Bowl stuff. Tecmo Super Bowl, I think, was Nintendo, but I'm thinking of the Mutant League football stuff. That was, god damn it, those games are so good. I feel like that might have been Genesis. Either way. So we sort of started with Nintendo, and then we moved on to... Oh, and by the way, my cousin, who we grew up with, we were very close with, his dad had a Nintendo as well, and had Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy, and he wouldn't let us play. And I told Ichi about this last week. If you're here for the show, you know this. Although that was a marathon show, so I don't blame you if you bailed out, like around hour 3. But he would have these notebooks where he would draw dungeons and then draw where the loot was and the bad guys were and all his different ability things. Even though they were kind of on the screen, it wasn't the greatest UI back then, but it was all there. But he drew it in notebooks, and he would get so mad if he thought we were touching his notebooks or his games, because if you saved over one of the saves, you were kind of screwed. My cousin's little brother lost one of his notebooks one time. It was crazy. But so that was another like important part. We would literally lay in bed in these bunk beds when I would sleep over at his house and watch his dad play Dragon Warrior until we fell asleep. This was every single night. It was amazing. And then we got Super Nintendo, we got Genesis, we got... Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. We got Super Nintendo, and then we had to save our own money between my brothers and I to get Genesis. And the reason for that was because my dad thought that Genesis was, for some reason, a bit worse of a console, which wasn't necessarily untrue, because that's where the blood codes were for Mortal Kombat. There were some other kind of weird games in there. Phantasy Star was there, although that wasn't weird. It was a little... No, that was kind of okay. But that game had the Mutant League football stuff and Mutant League hockey, which is amazing. So anyways, I had played games for effing forever. At some point in college, we started playing Counter-Strike. So I've been playing Counter-Strike since 1.3, which if you have played that game for a long time, that's when you could bunny hop and increase your acceleration around the entire map until you were basically unstoppable. You would have to stop the shoot, but you would be super, super duper fast. Especially on dust, you could do it under the underpass. You guys that have played the game know what I'm talking about. But I played that game back then, which means that I also played through the weird area where there were shields in the game, and that was really strange. If anyone remembers that, I want to say that was Counter-Strike Source when it first came out. The graphics were cool and the maps were cool, but it was freaking weird. Those shields really messed up the game. They eventually took those shields out, I think, in the next update. I forget exactly the timeline. But that was also the time I actually got involved with playing in the Cal League. So it was my first sort of footstep into the... It's a terrible name to say, but like professional gaming, that doesn't make sense. But like an organized league gaming, maybe, was the Cal League, Cal O, Cal M. And we made it to, I want to say Cal O was the first step, and then Cal M was like moderate league, I think, and then Cal I was one of the higher pub leagues, and we made it to Cal M. We were pushing for Cal I, and then people went to school. And we traveled to Canada for LANs and stuff. There's pictures of us at this all-night LAN, and I won some processor back then. I can't remember what the processor was, but it was really, like, you look back at it now, you're like, oh, God. But I remember when I won, it was like, holy crap, this thing's worth a bunch of money, and I sold it on eBay. It was funny because the finals came down to 2 teams from our clan. So it was actually my cousin Al was the leader of the other team, and some of our guys were on that team, and then my guys were on my team, and we ended up facing off in the finals, our 2 teams, and then we won because I killed my cousin. He still never let me live that down. So that was the next biggest game. That game took up like a decade of my life. That game and StarCraft 2 was humongous, especially Brood War. When we were in college, we used to LAN constantly that game. I thought I was so good at that game. I thought I was the best player of all time. My record I had a couple of different accounts on Battle.net, but one of them was something like 112 and 112 1 in 10. And so if you remember playing on Battle.net, there were all these guys that would play and have records that were like 8,000 wins, 2 losses, and 6,000 disconnects. Because if you were going to lose, you could just dis, and it wouldn't give you a loss. That was back before they fixed, put in a new system. But so people would have tons and tons of disconnects. Mine was like 112, 2 or 1 and 4 or 10 or something like that, a low number. And I was super proud of that account. And I would only play that account when I was really getting serious. But I thought I was so freaking good at this game, right? And then I saw what would-be professionals play the game. And I learned what actions per minute means. And I was like, yeah, I am not good at this game. Mostly because I like playing the pub maps and not Lost Temple 1,000 times in a row. I don't like those small, low resource maps. Although that, people would say, is how StarCraft is supposed to be played because you have to expand and all this stuff. Doesn't matter. I played that game for a long time. And then came World of Warcraft. And then I fell down this sort of decade and a half hole of WoW. Started a guild called Hero Squad, which is where the subscription name comes from and where our group comes from. That group actually still exists and still plays WoW. I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to raid with them. They're still around to this day. We're actually the oldest server on Bleeding Hollow, or the oldest guild on Bleeding Hollow that still raids. The oldest one. It's pretty awesome. And Bleeding Hollow is an old server. We could talk about WoW more later, but basically I played a Power Warrior for a long period of time. Eventually, there's these things called kids that get born, and they take over time from video games. So there were some hiatuses in WoW, basically, and also from streaming, which I will talk about in a minute. And right around the time that I was playing, I want to say it was in Cata, sometime around then, I sort of figured out what Twitch was from a friend. So I worked at NASA with a guy named Mike, who is actually a mod in this chat, MAF127. And we started playing this game called Puzzle and Dragons on the cell phones. Okay. And it is basically how all these games are played now. So it looks like Bejeweled, right? So you match orbs. But when you do that, characters attack a bad guy is sort of how the game works. I think there's about 1,000 clones of it now, but I think that was about the first one. And you can level up your guys. There's these eggs and all this stuff. We started playing this game, and he told me, he's like, hey, you should check out Twitch. You can stream your game live. You should do that. So I spent fucking forever trying to figure out how to put my phone screen onto the monitor to stream it. If I will actually post this link later. There's a link of me in one of my first streams ever, 5 years ago. Literally 5 freaking years ago. That's how long I've been doing this shit. In our old house, my family's old house, streaming from a weird office with sort of, it almost looks like a laptop webcam and no overlays, nothing, but I'm like shouting into the mic. It's sort of like describing this game very poorly. And the funniest part about this whole thing was, back then the game was super popular and no one was streaming it, just Mike and I. And actually one other guy who contacted me lately on Discord, because he's an asset designer now. And he, the three of us were the only people to stream it. When I first started streaming, I had something like 40, 50, 60 people in the chat at all times. And this is before the affiliate program. This is like 2013. And that was sort of regular for us back then, right? It's crazy to think about that regular number every single time you stream nowadays. I'm far lower than that now. I'm a fourth of that now. And so that game lasted a while. It didn't die, as far as I know. It like the developer didn't pull the plug on it, but it got basically overrun by other clones of itself. So other games that did the same thing in a different way, had a cooler concept or something, sort of destroyed that game. Which is fine. I mean, that happens to all games, basically. So at that time, my daughter was born, and I took a break for like, I want to say 8 or 9 months, and then I eventually came back. And this time I'm streaming WoW, okay? So I'm streaming with my guild WoW. or my guild in WoW. And we so I started streaming that, and that's anyone that streams WoW knows it can be rough. The really successful WoW people are either super high rated in arena, which I can't stand. I don't like the PvP in that game, or they're in the top 1% guilds in the world. It is impossible to stream that game with any kind of viewership number, or unless you write one of the guides. If you write a guide for what used to be Elitist Jerks or TankSpot or one of these big, or the Discords now is where all the theory crafting is. But if you were a theory crafter or something like that, then you would get views. If not, you're talking about 10,000 people streaming themselves leveling or something. It can be really, really rough to get any kind of viewership from that game. I've never really been a person who cares about viewership, but when the game's getting boring and there's really no one to talk to in chat, you get kind of about the game. So I switched to a different MMO called WildStar. And this game, and I still talk about it today, I actually tried to play it 2 months ago. There's like 50 people on the servers now. This game was supposed to be the WoW killer, just like every other MMO is, by the way. And by God, the game was so freaking good. So the rating was the best. The leveling was the worst. The dungeons were the worst. So they sold the game as being this hardcore, if you're good at WoW rating, this is going to blow your mind, that kind of crap. Oh yeah, hardcore, it was so good. And I got into the early access of it. I was streaming it with about 5 other people who were the big streamers of it at the time. Again, we're doing like 30, 40, 50 people in the chat every night. The game was great. And then it started to fall down because all of a sudden you found out that once you hit the cap and you wanted to start raiding, which is everyone that came to the game wanted to raid because they had heard how great the raids were. By the way, they went back to 40-person raids. They tried to do what WoW did in vanilla. So they would grab, it was 40, right? Yeah. So it would take 2 teams combined to do the raid. The second raid. The first raid could be done with 20. But the only way to get to the attunement to raid was to do all the dungeons on silver, which wasn't the hardest. Gold was the hardest. Like there were these achievements where if you did it fast enough and got a certain amount of points for killing the different guys in the dungeon, and people would plot out the quickest course, of course. You know, you could skip this mob, you can skip this mob, run right to the boss, then you kill him fast enough, you can get gold. Well, they did that for, you had to get silver to get the attunement for each dungeon, then you had to do a quest, then you could go to the raid. The dungeons were so fucking hard. And awesome, by the way. They are awesome. If you could just join that game, it's free to play, by the way, on Steam. If you can get a group, which I highly doubt it, because there's literally a couple dozen people, a few dozen people on the server at any time. If you could get a group to do the dungeons in that game, they are the most fun dungeons you will ever play. WoW has no chance of competing with the mechanics of the combat in that game. It is so fun. Except there's like 1/1000th of the amount of people that can do it. So people don't have patience for that. It takes months and months and months to get an attunement to go into a raid. And then you have to beat that entire raid and the final boss in order to go into the next raid. It was a rough attunement. They lost huge amounts of players from that. Huge amounts. Then they had a problem with marketing. They couldn't market the game correctly because they tried to do this game's just for hardcore players. And then they sort of realized after some amount of time that, if you think about who the hardcore players in WoW are, who the really hardcore, like take time off work when a raid comes out, you're talking about 1% of 1% of the people that play WoW. That's the people they were marketing WildStar to. That's not a large viewer base, But it was a really, really good game. The combat was really, really good. It was terribly managed. The attunement was gross. And the housing was awesome. They have a housing concept in that game where you can build your own house out of items you can find. You have to see some of the crazy houses they built in there. It was nuts. It was so detailed. But the game eventually just died. They tried to go free to play. It didn't work. It spiked up population for a little bit until people hit the dungeon attunement. And they're like, oh yeah, why the fuck do I want to do this? I could go do WoW and do the heroics today. I can get into LFR to the minute I hit 80 in WoW. The minute I hit 80, I can be raiding. I mean, raiding in some way. You can't even walk into the raid. Well, sorry, unless you're attuned. It's too bad, man, because the game was so good. So freaking good. Anyways, that game died, like every other game that I try and mainstream. When that game died was right around the time my son was born, so hey, that's a reasonable break. Took a break for another about 9 months from the stream world. No, I'd say maybe 6 months from streaming. And then when I came back, it started off as a little bit of WoW, and then it sort of quickly picked up into, hey, I kind of want my stream to look better. And then that snowballed into this crazy, crazy world where I've come to this insane amount of stream equipment in my stream room. It's absurd. It's so complicated I can't figure out half of it. So then that came to a point in time where I said, hey, there's this cool game called... No, let me go to the next segment for that. That's basically how Twitch came about up into that. Let's say up into the point of a game called... Let's say up into PUBG. We'll stop it there and we'll talk about lessons learned at that point. But there was... So that's sort of how I heard about Twitch. And in terms of viewership, like me watching Twitch, never watched Twitch. Never. I before I started streaming and before I started watching one person in particular, which I'll talk about in a moment, there was a concept I have where I didn't understand how someone else could watch someone play a video game instead of playing it. That didn't make any sense to me. And actually, my wife has the same concept. She doesn't understand Twitch because of that. She has started to get it because she sees it now as sort of, it's sort of like an entertainment platform. Like you're kind of watching because the host is entertaining, not necessarily to watch the game. You could play the game. And so I sort of, I had my first sub to the doctor. At some point I was like, wow, this is what you can do on Twitch? Like at that point, before it was just, here's me playing a game. This is boring, you know? I think at the time I just happened to be playing the right games. Which is, by the way, one of the lessons I talked about. I talked about with my friend Bananas. His name is Slice Bananas. I call him Bananas. I talk about it with Wild Bill. I talked about it with Ichi. There is an element of luck in this game of streaming. You can be doing nothing at all. Randomly pick a game. Tomorrow that game gets popular. You have 100 viewers in your chat tomorrow. There is that same friend, Bananas. He was playing a game that I suggested to him. Like maybe the day before or 2 days before. He played it on a stream. I don't know all the details. I'm pretty sure it was completely random. He's on the Steam page for it because Steam does this thing now where people that are streaming the game can be featured on the Steam page. I think it's something like that. He happened to be streaming a game where he got put on that page. Oh, he's talking about 400, 500 people in his chat. There's a crazy game of luck to this. Where you can be doing all the right things for the longest amount of time, and it just doesn't go your way. It just there's no luck to it. Look at our good friend Karastus, who's he is a friend of Elamir, who's actually a Spotlight streamer, and he is sort of a friend of Twitch Kittens, but he streams Fallout 4 regularly. He streams some other games. He's like an older guy that streams, really chill. And he, I believe, was rated by Shroud. Okay, so just one day he had really no viewership. The next day, Shroud raids him. Now it's 100 viewers every single night. It's a weird concept to think about. But and Bananas and I talked about it. It's to get to the level of Ninja or Shroud. And I know everyone says Ninja. He started streaming H1Z1 and all these other games, and he has been streaming for years and years and years. Right. But he didn't get big like he is now. You know, hundreds and thousands of subs and all this stuff. For many years, and he sort of lucked into it. It's the same way as a couple of guys who got rated by Ninja did. These guys haven't been streaming for a very long couple months. Get rated by Ninja. Now it's 2,000 viewers a night. Because they randomly got rated by Ninja. Look at me. I'm not very good at PUBG. I'm terrible at that game. I randomly got rated by Visions one night. 800 people in my chat. That's crazy. There's too much luck involved to, and this part goes to a little bit of a lessons learned. I'm kind of jumping out of order here. I guess it's okay. But basically, goals are important. And we talked about this a little bit in one of my communities. called the Twitch bar. And we talked a little bit about maintaining goals and setting realistic, achievable goals for yourself. It mirrors real life a lot, where in order to be successful in business, successful in your career, successful in relationships, or as a parent, there has to be goals of things you want to achieve, and they can't be crazy. It can't be, okay, I'm going to graduate college, and then next year I'm going to make $1 million. That doesn't make any sense. You graduate college, then I'm going to get a stable job, then I'm going to move to this company, I'm going to get this kind of raise to move here, then I'm going to move to this company. You have to have a path forward in any aspect of life. Otherwise, you sort of lose sight of where you're trying to get to and end up just sort of spinning around in circles. And I think a lot of people have a problem when they start streaming, because a lot of people will start streaming because of people like The Good Doctor or Ninja or there's a creative realm of people that I'm not really familiar with, but a really influential person to me is also the streamer named Stacey Roy, who she does a show called The Nerdy Bartender. She does a couple different shows, but she does sort of like a half cooking, half make a drink show, and then she plays some games. She also is a cosplayer, but she it's another one where people look at like, oh, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I know how to cook. I'll just do it tomorrow. I can dress up like Tracer. It's not the same. It's not an achievable go to. What did he do? I'm sorry. I just read this. Thank you, Bonanz. I have the chat here. I just now noticed it. I'm fine with whatever you decide to do. That guy is a really old friend of mine, though, so I'm sure he's just trolling. So setting realistic goals is important to any streamer that starts. You can't just expect, and we see a lot. Oh my God, we talked about it with Bill. Bill said probably the best thing that could have been said as a partner on this show. By the way, Bill was the first partner on this show. He said that a lot of partners that he knows, when they got partnered, 3 months later they quit streaming forever. Can you imagine that? Working as long as some of us have, getting to partnership, and then quitting 3 months later. That sounds crazy to me. It probably sounds crazy to all my friends that stream, anybody in these communities, anybody who's listening to this. He basically said that these people thought that partnership was the finish line, that was the ticker tape, and that when they hit the finish line, now it's developers are blowing up my phone. People are waiting with offers for sponsorships, and I'm going to get a Nike deal, and I'm going to sing a Gillette song, and all this crap. There is a really rude awakening, as he basically said. He said that once you hit that door, once you open that partnership door, you immediately walk into a room of 3 more doors. There's no balloons. There's no celebration. It's 3 more doors. Now you have to figure out how to open each of these doors. One of them is developers. One of them is sponsorship. One of them could be conventions. One of them could be just maintaining viewership. One of them could be stream times, because that becomes kind of important then. One of them is definitely budget and time management. He sort of talked about all this, and it was really good to hear. I kind of knew that. I just sort of figured that out, but it was good to hear it from someone who has been there. And he even said when he got partnered, there is a weird depression that comes with that. And I'm like way, I'm sorry, you know me, I rant and rave about different things. Let me switch my little things here. So I'm probably on the wrong one, but that's okay. He sort of talked a little bit about how he went through a little bit of up and down with that. And we joke around about how it's called the spotlight slump. We call it a lot. That's what we had a term for it. So there's a thing called the Streamer Spotlight inside of Twitch Kittens, which is a community, a very large community of streamers. There's a sort of a recognition called the Spotlight Streamer, where you can get recognized for effort in streaming and promoting the community and all this kind of stuff. There is so when you get that, you usually get rated quite a bit. You get a lot of new viewers because you're getting an enhanced promotion in a stream group of like 15,000. So you get a big boost from that. When that's over, all of a sudden you're back down to the normal views. Sometimes, your job is basically to take advantage of any promotion you get and any marketing you get and turn that into viewership. Sometimes you can't do it, and all of a sudden you slump back down to the regular level, and it sort of leaves you sitting there like, what the hell just happened? I was averaging 40 or 50, and now I'm averaging 8 again. Bill described that same feeling when he got partnership. He described it as he got partnership from a game called For Honor. He sort of described it as he was at the right time with the right game, which is the way he describes it. And he's also a very big action RPG guy, so he was very analytical with the game. So people would come to him for advice, and the game was hot right then. And he said at one time it was 800, 900,000 people regular in his chat. He made partner no big deal a while ago. Back when I think he was talking about the threshold was like 500 viewers to be a partner. Think about that, by the way. We heard Ichi last week say that he became partner when the concurrent average baseline was 150. Okay, so if Bill did it when the baseline was 500, the baseline has come down to 150, which is when Ichi made it, and now it has come down to 75. Is halved since then. So there is. You think about that in terms of the amount of partners there are versus the amount of affiliates there are, and it's a crazy weird floodgate to get in there, right? It's a choke point kind of. Let me get back on track with the topics real quick. We'll come back to the lessons learned in a second. But another thing that Ichi mentioned that I was really keen on talking to him about was conventions. Sorry, I'm late on my little thing here. Okay, was the importance of marketing yourself, the importance of networking at conferences and everything like that. Ichi describes himself as a very anxious person, and this is not my words for him. This is what he said. He struggles with anxiety. He has a little bit of social anxiety. He mentioned that when he was going to PAX East, it was tough for him to even get on a plane. He doesn't like being in those situations. I think Bill is a little bit less anxious than him, but Bill also described the same thing. He went to TwitchCon last year, I believe. He's thinking about taking this year off because he's going to a different convention and then he's going on vacation or something like that. So conventions are a crazy way to meet people and to do your social networking that you need to do. I personally am talking only from what's it called? Common sense standpoint, as I have never been to a convention to market my Twitch channel before, or my brand, as you call it, your channel brand. TwitchCon will be my first this year. I am going. As soon as they release the tickets, they said first week of July. It's the first week of July. I know it's only Tuesday, but still, where are my tickets at? There is, I actually asked Julia on her, Julia is the founder of Twitch Kittens. Her name is Kaljit. She had some sort of a little bit of a question and answer program, a little bit sort of like what we do at the end of our show here, on just sort of stream related topics. And I submitted a couple questions, one of which was, what is your opinion on business cards and social networking when you're at conventions? And she highly recommends business cards when you go. So if you're going to TwitchCon, I suggest it if you're serious about networking. And I've talked to her before, and I've talked to some other people before. In my business, in my career, I get sent to a lot of conventions professionally. So I go to places to present papers I've written and to present papers that my teams have written on basically topics concerning my exact field of science. I've been to a few. I've actually been to an international one. It was my favorite one. We went to Rome. I went to Rome to present. I have several sets of business cards for that. I go through hundreds of them when I go to these conventions. Every single person I talk to. This is how you make business connections, keeping a large Rolodex like this. Because you know what happens? Next week, all of a sudden you're reading someplace, you're reading online or something like this. Oh, Orbital was just bought by Raytheon. Or was it Lockheed Martin? Shit. It was Lockheed Martin. There's a company called Orbital, which makes satellites. They made the satellite that launched on my project last November. They were just bought by Lockheed Martin, which is one of the biggest defense contractors in the country. That's big news. I know people at Orbital, all these cards. Now they're Lockheed Martin people. Maybe they get put in different position, a manager position, a project manager position, maybe a contract acquisition position, which is even better. And now you have personal Discord with them. Hey, man, remember we met in Rome? You saw the conference. How have you been since then? Do you miss seeing the Coliseum? You know, some funny little joke. That sort of stuff is effing huge when it comes to marketing yourself. Bill and I talked about it. Ichi and I talked about it. Modest and I talked. Modest is Calgi's partner and manager a little bit. That's as much as I know. So he manages Julia. He's dating Julia. And he sort of is the interface to a lot of business development for that brand and for the Twitch Kittens brand. He says a little bit of the same thing. Getting sort of your name in a developer's mouth is worth an incredible amount. Bill talked about it when he was on the show last Monday. He knows personally community managers in what is the name of that game? The Total War series. He knows the community managers of Total War. He knows developers of Total War. So when that game starts coming out, he can send them an email right away. Hey man, I'm super excited about the game. Interested to see what you got in store. Would love to be a partner on this game with you. That's as much as he would have to say. That person would write back, oh, hey, what's going on? I met you at the last conference, whatever. Yeah, you know, we need to talk about setting something up, some kind of contract. I don't know how it works exactly, obviously. But that connection that you make at a convention is worth an incredible amount. It has been worth an incredible amount to me in my professional career. I could only imagine it is the exact same concept for our little Twitch world here. When you have a brand, the more people that know that brand, the more popular it is, the more doors you can open, the different routes you can take. And Bill mentioned that a lot of those developers he meets, let's say they started working on Total War, they know him as the Total War guy. They know him as the action RPG guy. All of a sudden, developers change jobs a lot. They go different places a lot. All of a sudden, that guy maybe goes over to Blizzard. Now he's community manager for Diablo, something like that. Send an email. Oh, you're at Blizzard now? What's going on? How are you doing? What's up with Diablo 4? Can I get a copy? You know, something like that. Like, it's easy. But you need to put in the work. You can't just... The chances of getting a sponsorship or a partnership blind, emailing someone saying, hey, I stream on Twitch. Here's my link. I would love to promote your brand. That has to be a less than 1% chance to happen. It's the same way as getting hired into a job. If you know someone at the company, if you know the HR people, if you know the vice president or something, there's word of mouth that can pass inside the company that you can't force yourself into. It's worth way more than anything. So if you're going to TwitchCon, if you're going to PAX, if you're going to any of these things, bring business cards. Bring a way to market yourself. I know some other people that are bringing like magnets or, oh God, what was he saying? I think it was magnets or stickers, maybe patches, something like that with his brand on it. And but meeting those people when you're there, sort of escaping that anxious, anxiety-ridden bubble of yours is huge. As a personal anecdote, again, to my professional career, this is why they send me to conferences to do the talking when I'm on a team of engineers, because that is sort of a niche I've carved out for myself. I realize that I'm decent at talking publicly. I have no problem standing up in front of a big crowd and giving a talk, even a really technical talk, and then fielding questions while I'm standing there. That is worth an incredible amount in engineering. It's also worth the same amount in this business here. Some people, even though they sit in front of a camera all day, they don't really like getting up in front of crowds or talking to people. So going to a convention and being that personable person who, by the way, I would also tag onto that being professional, gives you a leg up on the competition, gives you a leg up on every other channel out there. Let me think. So my plan for TwitchCon is basically to go, but also to bring business cards into, and I'm treating it basically as a business retreat. It's going to be, I'm going to attend every single event I can. I actually have a submission in for a panel that is going to be basically this channel as a panel live. So I submitted a panel request that's going to basically be me and a couple other streamers who I haven't confirmed any of them. I suggested names, and they will be on the panel basically answering questions. It'll be a little bit of a talk, mostly answering questions from streamers about how to get on the right path in terms of streaming, which I mean, if you know the show, that's what we do here. That's what the bar does. That's what Hero Squad does. That's what Twitch Kittens does too. But the other two are a little more focused on that. That is my favorite thing about streaming. So I've submitted a panel for that. Hopefully we get accepted. That would be really cool. And if not, I'm still going as an affiliate. I think I had a friend explain that there's different sets of tickets. There's a partner ticket, there's an affiliate ticket, and there's a general admission ticket. So I'm attending every kind of event I can while I'm there and just, making the most of it. I suggest you do the same. There's other Twitch meetups all in your areas. You're never too remote to go. I live in the middle of freaking nowhere, Ohio, literally. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in between Cleveland and Pittsburgh in some radius around them. And there is going to be an event this month. Holy crap, it's July. There's an event this month, later on in this month, that is a pinball tournament that I have friends going to. I am going down there and hosting kind of a mini event that's just, hey, meet up anyone that's in Pittsburgh who wants to come hang out. Those kind of things are worth a ton. You can only do so much, like tweeting at someone or, retweeting or commenting on someone's tweet or sending out Instagram posts or hosting someone or rating someone really only does so much for you. You know that person basically from their generosity of rating you, or maybe they gift some subs or donate to you, and that's fine and that's great and generous and fantastic. But meeting someone in person allows you to have this weird other social connection that, I shouldn't say weird, a normal social connection with someone where the next time you see that person in your chat, you immediately think about the last conversation you have. That's just how brains work. So I'm trying to think of an example. I have met... So my friend group, Hero Squad, from many, many years ago, we do a meetup every year. We call it HeroCon. We've done it almost every single year since we've been formed as a guild. We travel to a different part of this country where someone in Hero Squad lives. We camp. We either get a hotel, an Airbnb, or we stay at the person's house. We play games. We go drinking. We get food. We go sightseeing. Whatever's in the air, whatever is on the docket. Usually it involves a lot of beer and a lot of magic cards. Usually. But there's no, any of those people come into the chat, I sort of immediately, you think in their voice, you see their face when they're chatting. It's a different relationship, and it's worth way more than any number of raid you can put into someone's channel, any number of dollars you can put into someone's channel. It's a different connection that you can use differently. And that sort of connection is irreplaceable, meeting someone like that. So that's why it's super important to get to these events. There's websites. I think there's a website like twitchmeetups.com or something like that. Meetups.twitch.tv maybe, something, where you can find meetups in your area that are sponsored meetups. You can also find meetups like in Twitch Kittens community, or, it's sort of like a Hero Squad and bar meetup at the same time. But you can find stuff like that in local communities. I highly suggest looking around because that's a really good way to network out. You can also put in maybe some discussion about co-streaming, maybe some cool show coming up you got an idea for. Highly suggest it. Anyways, that's the event plan for this year. I talked it to death. Let me go back to lessons learned a little bit. I want to give a couple tips of advice. Basically, like I was mentioning, I wrote that kind of an encyclopedia for streaming when I was a Spotlight streamer. And there's a lot of advice in there, and I understand that it can be overwhelming to a lot of people. But I want to touch on a couple topics because they're fresh. And one of them is, let me think of what I want to start with. We talked a little bit about getting your foot in the door, setting goals. Let me start with that. That's a really, really good one. Goals are important for any sort of career you're in, personally as well. I described that. Bill described the opening a door and then seeing 3 more doors you have to open. Understand, and Bananas and I talked about it as well, partnership is not the end. There's no finish line for partnership. There's no finish line necessarily for Twitch. Think about who Ninja is, and think about who the Doc is, okay? You're talking about guys that have 10,000, 15,000 people in their chat every single day, thousands and thousands of subs, more than likely make quite a bit of money each month, okay? These guys are still every single day partnership, trying to come up with a new sponsorship agreement, trying to come up with new partnerships, talking to people about games, talking to devs, going to conventions. There's no relaxation to it. There's no slow down. There's no, now I've made it, I can just chill out, no big deal, I don't gotta stream today, none of that stuff. Because they know how fleeting it is, first of all. This is the internet, okay? The internet tends to be pretty fickle. Tomorrow something changes and there's a new meme. You guys know how fast memes come and go. The Reddit is really quick on trends, and Reddit is also like the number 3 website in any day in the world. Twitch is the same way with games, with broadcasters. How many of those big streamers do we see get banned for some X amount of days because of some not only a copyright issue, but also a little bit of a trolling and harassment issue? That shit can happen tomorrow. You need to take advantage of what you can. This is exactly corollary to LeBron James going to LA. I'm a fan of Cleveland. There's no one in Cleveland that blames him for that. He has a finite amount of time as an athlete. Get your money while you can, okay? This is what the Doc and Ninja know, is that tomorrow, and by the way, the Doc took a huge hit previously from his last episode. Tomorrow, Ninja could do something stupid, say something wrong, and all of a sudden he's got half the subs. He's got half the income. So now he needs to budget appropriately for these different things. But this is all something that could happen. Tomorrow you could be no one. So you can't ever really be satisfied with where you are, even at partnership. Do not think of that as the end goal. Same way as we see a lot of people talking about affiliate in Twitch Kittens, talking about, all I need is 3 more viewers to get to affiliate. All I need is 4 more followers, and then I'm there. And then I finally got affiliate. And then what happens? Then you got like 3 more years until partner. I mean, roughly. It's like, it's crazy to think about that. Some people can get partnered tomorrow. They'll be partnered after a month because they hit the right game, got lucky, got the right raid at the right time, something. We're also a good broadcaster. Rarely do people make partner and they're not good broadcasters. But some people can work years and not have it. Some people can work years and then eventually get it, like Ninja. It's set a goal of partnership, but don't have it be the last goal. Have your last goal be something like, I want to get to the point of 4,000 subs, something like that. That's a goal that is beyond partnership that you could just slowly work towards over time. Obviously, 4,000 subs might be, that's still realistic because people have done it, but you know what I'm saying. There's also the point of realistic goals for yourself. When you're affiliate, maybe not the most realistic goal is partnership is the next step. There are intermediate steps to get to partnership. There's achievements built into Twitch to talk about that, basically. So you can see these goals inside there. They have things like so before you get to 75 concurrent, it's like 25 concurrent viewers and then 50 concurrent viewers and then 75 concurrent viewers. So it steps up a little bit. It gives you a rough guideline on goals, but you can set them yourself. I see people doing it all the time. I'm trying to get to 100 subs. I have a good friend that just got to his 100 subs. I have another good friend that just got 200 subs. Those are good goals to get to mark progress going forward. It's important to look back on your streams and your VODs for improvement purposes. How can you move to the next step? How can you move to the next level? What else can you be doing? Let's say and by the way, it's not all contained inside Twitch. You need goals outside of Twitch. We're talking about social media goals. I don't necessarily mean followers. I'm not really good at social media. I feel like I'm better at Instagram because I have a purpose on Instagram and I have a style that I do my Instagram in. But Twitter is something that sort of eludes me. I think I don't use the right hashtags or do the right things or something. Because I know people with thousands of followers. I have a friend who's in Jersey who runs a clothing shop, who's also sort of like a part-time model, and she has tens of thousands of followers just for like the different clothing lines she has and things like that. Like, I don't know how long that took, but holy crap. Like, there's a goal step in social media as well as Twitch and the stats that are built in Twitch. My biggest suggestion would be literally get a notebook, get a pen. I know that's pretty old school instead of just typing it in a notepad. But for me, writing something down makes it more finite than putting it into Notepad or a sticky on your desktop. Get a notebook that has stream ideas. So I have a kind of notebook. I know for sure that Ponies also has this kind of notebook. But you write down ideas sort of as you think about them while you're streaming. We all think about stuff while we're streaming, or a viewer suggests it or something. You got to write it down real quick. Write down a goal page. Write down where you are right now. You can, if you want, backtrack on the things you've done so far, the achievements you've accomplished, write down those dates. I see a lot of streamers that do a little goals section in their panels that talks about, here's the date I got affiliate. Here's the date I got 500 followers. Here's the date I got 1,000 followers. Here's the date I got 100 subs. Things like that. So it shows a progress, which I really like that. I'm thinking about putting it on my channel, actually. Write those down in a notebook so you can keep track of where you are and remember where you're trying to go to. So many times people don't write down these goals. They have a goal in mind when they start, and as they progress forward, the goal somehow gets lost. They lose their path on the road that they sort of set out on. They get distracted by maybe what someone else is doing, or maybe a big success that they've seen over here where it was like, oh, this person just streamed IRL to start, and then they got 50 viewers in there. I need to go this path now. And they lose sort of what they were starting to do. And at the same time, you also start to lose who you are as a host, which is so important. I mentioned this today in some chat in the bar. And by the way, I have been saying the bar a lot. That's an important community to me, as is Hero Squad and Twitch Kittens. But the bar is really focused on solving problems for streamers that sort of have to do with stream theory and Twitch theory and things like that. We had a talk in there today about losing your way as a host and sort of how you start off thinking about one thing and then all of a sudden you get distracted by all these other avenues of attack, basically with streaming. And it can often lead to a depressed state where some viewership you started out with maybe are all of a sudden gone and you can't really figure out why. You're sitting there like, wait, what the hell happened? I used to have 20 streamers or 20 viewers a night. Now I have 2. What happened? Maybe it's because you've changed as a streamer. Maybe you started out in one way and all of a sudden now you're doing something else. You're playing different games, different attitude. Maybe you're not as sincere as you were. Maybe you're not having the right chat interaction. Something usually changes when that happens. And it I think it often goes back to losing sight of where you wanted to be in the first place. A lot of people want to have their ultimate goal as someone like the doc. That's fine. Set that as the furthest away goal. How do you get there? How do I get to doc? So you go from here. Now I need 1,000 followers. Now I need 100 subs. Now I need to start contacting developers. Here's where I go to TwitchCon and meet 10 new people. Here's where I go to PAX East and meet 20 new people. These people I'm going to co-stream with. You set out sort of like a business plan, an attack plan moving forward, like you're a project manager. Treat this job like a project manager job. Treat your channel like that. Have a set goal. Don't lose sight of it. If you do, that usually will encompass something like a rebranding or something that changes wholesale with your channel, a different schedule or something. That's fine as well. Probably shouldn't be happening every day, but that's fine. When that happens, you need to rethink your goal list as well. Have a new set goal. Have a new steps to get there, basically. Let me think of some other. Let me talk a little bit about. It goes a little bit along with goals, but it's sort of about being able to adapt to a changing environment in Twitch. I will give you my own personal record on this. You heard me describe 2 different games. I didn't describe the last yet. So Puzzle and Dragons died. Basically got overrun by competition. Wildstar literally died, killed itself, stabbed itself in the heart, died bleeding on the floor. There's a 3rd game called Radical Heights I tried to play. Quite a bit. Main game, by the way. This is every night game. And that game was pulled by the developer out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. The developer just said, I'm not doing it anymore. We're done. So as a person who streams that game main all the time, every single night, what happens at that point? Your viewers now know you as streaming this one game. They know you as the Wildstar streamer. They know you as a Radical Heights streamer. All of a sudden, there's no game. What do? There's all these kind of obstacles that will come up in your streaming path, in your Twitch life, that need to be dealt with and moved through. Otherwise, your goal will never be met. You'll never get to where you want to be. You'll just sort of flounder in this area, this sort of repeating circle of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what game to play, blah, blah, blah. This is where I have found myself 4 different times since I started streaming so many years ago. It's a rough hit on a stream, but you need to be able to see your way forward and find a path around that obstacle back to getting to where your goal is. But it also a little bit goes to perseverance and not letting something like that destroy you. Something like something like going from, and Bill mentioned it when he was on the show again. I keep going back to my guest because the guest, the whole goal for the guest being on the show is to teach you guys, the viewers of this show, how to achieve what you want to achieve, how to get on the right path to your goals. That's the whole point of this show, is for you to learn from the guests. The guests also teach me everything. You guys aren't the exclusive benefiters of this knowledge. And Bill mentioned that he started in For Honor, right? Got partnered For Honor, 900, 800,000 views every single night of For Honor. He says nowadays you'll come to his stream, see maybe 10. Some nights you'll see 800. Some nights you'll see 50. It depends on what game he's playing a little bit. But that's also his personal choice. He's chosen, I'm going to play what I want, basically, in his sort of realm of things. He has had time and put in an enormous amount of time into this, an enormous amount of effort to get his following and everything like that. So he can a little bit switch games like that without issue. But he has talked about falling into these depressive states when his viewership count would drop or when other things would happen and it wasn't really working out for him. But he sort of managed to find his way out of it by basically reiterating to himself that this is just some aspect of my life. This is not my life, Some people get involved with streaming and do it as often as they can. It consumes their life. Just numbers every single day. Just numbers. Has to be the most viewers. Has to be 30 viewers a day, or I'm effing up, or something's wrong and I need to reevaluate everything. This whole life on Twitch is a hobby. Okay. This is something you do for fun, alongside of your commitments in life. There are bills. There are taxes. There are families. There are relationships. There are professional careers. There is education. Those are really the big thing. I would say eating as well is very important. Sleep, not as important. But these are things that need to come before this hobby. And when you take a hit in Twitch, as everyone does, literally everyone, every single person, if for any reason you're sitting there streaming and you have your viewership up, which I don't suggest you do, you have your viewership up, looking at it, and you keep seeing zero. There's no one here, no one watching. And you think, Jesus, I am a failure at streaming. I have 0 people watching me right now. I have 1 person watching me right now. What is this crap? I must be the only person this is happening to. Just know that that's a joke, okay? Every single streamer that has ever streamed on Twitch has started at that. Has started with 0 people watching, 0 people interested in what they had to say, what game they had to play. That's just how it is. Some people get lucky and it happens faster, where you build up a little bit of a following. Some people stream at single digits for years and years and years. That's just how it goes. You just got to fight through it and get to where you want to be. Realize that that's just a stepping stone and learn from it. Maybe use some statistics of games you're playing. Maybe you switched games a bunch of times in the last week, and when you played one certain game, something clicked and you had like 12 viewers. Well, maybe it's time to go back to that game and take a look at that game again. Let's see what happens next time you stream it. Maybe it's 12 viewers again. Maybe next time you do is 15 viewers. Maybe you weren't tweeting out the right things, getting people excited about your stream coming up. Maybe you had no promo images. Maybe your overlay is bad. Maybe your mic sucks. Maybe your internet drops frames all the time. Spectrum. Learn from it. Figure out a way around it. Don't let it be the end of your life. Don't let yourself fall down this well of despair where you're the only person that's ever happened to, where no one can possibly understand and you have no way to get out of it. Number 1 thing to remember, there are always people that have been there. Number 2 thing to remember, there are always people that want to help. I talked about it on this show before. The only reason this show exists is because of what I did when I started streaming. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. None. I had no one to answer questions. I wasn't as technically really sound as sort of what I do now, and I'm not even that technically sound now. Look at my freaking internet. There's no help is tough in a stream environment where there's a particular hardware setup and particular settings and different things that need to happen. Some stuff is out of your control, like garbage ISPs. Some stuff like schedules or work schedules is out of your control. So maybe you can't stream on the nights you want to stream or the nights where you're supposed to stream. I talk so much I forget what I was saying. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But basically, you're not the. I know where I was going. You're not the only one that's ever had that happen to him. There are people willing to answer questions. The whole show was started for that reason. If you ever feel like you have a question you don't know what to do, come find me. Literally. Send me a message on Twitch if you need to. Come find the communities. Come talk to Twitch kittens. There's a channels, literally, just for questions. Come find the Twitch bar, Discord. Every single person there will answer your question. Hero Squad channel. Every single person can answer your question. Twitter. You can just tweet out Twitch. How the hell, what settings do I need to do this? Answer. Don't get yourself locked into some area where you can't solve the problems that you need to solve to get on the right path to streaming. That would be my, let's say, last lesson, because I'll end up talking about this for like the next 3.5 hours. But of the many lessons, which you can find in my Discord as well as the Twitch Kittens Discord in the Spotlight Streamer, that's an important one, is to never be afraid to ask when you feel lost or you're not sure in what direction you need to go. What's the next section? Next step. Okay. So the next step, basically, I have a set of goals. I've talked about my goals before. They're not necessarily partnership, although that'd be fine. They are more promoting this show. But so my goal for my stream always revolves around this show and what season it's on. So I'm on season 3. We're talking to partnered streamers and partner level information. I am the only non-partner that's been on this season, and it's my goddamn show. Okay. But I feel like I can talk a little bit from that perspective because I have been in those circles, I guess, and talked to those people and sort of have asked those questions to those people, so I know the answers, basically. I don't know everything. There are people that know way more than I do that have actually been in that environment. But the goal for this show is to keep increasing the guest lineup we've had. It's been fantastic. I have targeted people that I want on the show. There was a hiccup for this week that hopefully is resolved now, but we'll get back to that. And then I have some future ones coming that are very, very exciting. Partner streamers, some very, very large. But my whole goal, my road to success, is basically through the show and through the concept of this show, which is helping other people get to where they want to be on streaming. I have a Wednesday show, which is fine. It's just, that's more fun for me than it is like a serious look at stream goal area. Another big goal for me is partnership, obviously, at some point. That'd be fantastic. But that there's also the complication of work, which I'll get into in a minute. And I'm not sure what... and I want, above all other things, if there's a list of partnerships, what's the one partnership you wish you could have? What's the one you wish you could have? What company? Micro Center. I don't even know if they would do something like that. Micro Center is my favorite brand of all brands. Okay, Micro Center, I'm gonna come for you. I'm getting that sponsorship. Me and you are working together, Micro Center. Okay, just watch out. That's the one I want the most. But no, it's basically, the goal for the show is to have great guests on, to give great information. That is the main overarching goal of my stream career, are those two things. If it hovers around 15 viewers a week, as long as those 15 viewers get something out of it, that I am so freaking happy. The best thing I've ever heard about this show, actually best two things. One, hey, your stream looks really good. I love that one. And number two, hey, I really learned a lot on the last Monday show. I really resonated with something that Bill said, with something that Banana said, with something that, Kitty or Athena or Lace or somebody said in the last season. It really helped me get past a certain point, and it was really helpful. That is the whole goddamn point of this show. The only point of this show is that. So that is my future goal. That's the short-term goal, is to keep increasing the guests that we have coming. And there's also some game partnerships I'm working on, some developers partnerships that I would like to see happen in the short term. That's okay if they don't. And obviously get to my first TwitchCon. That is a milestone that I'll be looking forward to. I think that's it in terms of goals. I mentioned work life, right? So that's an important concept for pretty much everyone. That happens in relationships, it happens in video games, happens with school. You have to have some kind of balance between what you do in your personal life and what you do in your professional life. The same applies here. This is what you do in your stream life versus what you do in your professional life. There's only a few people that can ever say those two are separate, or that those two are one and the same. Sorry. There's only a few people that can say those are one and the same, and those are very large people. Even people that are partnered streamers, a majority of them have jobs. Part-time jobs, something they do on the weekends, doesn't matter. A majority of them have that. Don't be sort of dismayed by that. That goes to sort of a keeping an obtainable goal system. But basically, here's what I do. My stream starts at 9 p.m. every single day of the week. Why 9 p.m., you might ask? Well, that's because my whole family's asleep by 9 p.m. I do not stream on the weekends. Why is that, you ask? I have children that require attention, that have family needs, and I'm a dad, and it's important to spend time with family. I stream from 9 to 3, something like that, 9 to 2. That's the amount of time that I've found that balances well with my life. I have a full-time job. I have actually 2 full-time jobs. Luckily they overlap, and luckily I work from home. That's a very fortunate position I found myself in. But there's no situation that I can imagine where I would be streaming full-time and not have that job. There's too many other considerations. I've talked about this many, many times. There are things like benefits, retirement plans, benefits for children, life insurance, disability insurance, all this stuff. Twitch doesn't offer that shit. Okay, let's get serious. Twitch doesn't offer that. You pay that on your own when you're with Twitch. That is something that needs to be added into account when it comes to income from streaming and goals with streaming as well. I have my own thoughts on education and higher education and advanced degrees, but that maybe is for another time, maybe on Wednesday. But basically the idea is that in terms of work-life balance, it's important to set a schedule. My phone is done. It's important to set a schedule. It's important to stick to that schedule. It's important not to hinder other points of your life with this. This can become the main point of your life at some point. This can become your job that you do every day. That's fine. Until then, it shouldn't be something you do every minute of every day when you have relationships to be in, when you have family that needs you, when you have a job that pays bills, pays real bills in real dollars. I joke around about that because a lot of people make money on Twitch, then a lot of them spend the same amount of money on Twitch. They help they support other streamers and things, or buy new equipment and things like that. If people say do it for fun, only do it if you're having fun. I agree. There's no reason to do this if you're not having fun. But it's also, you should have a goal for it, basically. If it's just to have fun, that's fantastic. But have a goal of someplace you're trying to get to. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to mention about stream life. I really like what Ichi said about a mental health balance as well. There's a lot of people that, and we just talked about this, that put a lot of weight on their success on Twitch, and that somehow reflects their success in life. And that is really dangerous talk, to be honest. It's important to take a successful approach to your life where you can be proud of your successes. It's even more important to fail in life and then learn from failings. That's even more important than succeeding and being proud of success. Most people that are successful will tell you that. I'm not saying I'm a successful person, by the way. I mean, really successful people have failed a trillion times, but learned from what they failed at and kept moving forward. That's probably one of the most important lessons to apply to your life. You can't let some small thing destroy you in this, and especially let it affect other relationships. That would be the worst thing I can imagine. We've seen many times, and actually not just in streaming, in video games in general, in organized video game play. How many times have you heard the WoW story where someone would play WoW 12 hours a day and then their family leaves them? You know what I mean? Their wife leaves them, their husband leaves, something like that. Destroys their relationship because they can't stop playing. That there's other things that go into account for that. I mean, that's an obsessive behavior type of thing, but it's important to not get there and to like Ichi said, take a mental health break Take a stream health break where having a set schedule is great, getting the right sleep, maybe working out is good, maybe eating right, maybe spending, going on a holiday, vacation, taking days off of stream, going outside, something as simple as that. Those are all great tips. Meditating is a super great tip as well, if that's for you. Streaming can be really anxiety ridden for people, and you need to get that out somehow. Don't let it just fester and happen every single day. It will destroy you and your stream. People can tell when the host is being insincere and is having issues. Trust me. I had a really good friend who's a leader of a stream team that just basically sort of came out and said, hey, I'm having an issue. I need to walk away from this for a little bit. And nothing is more important than that, to be honest. I'm going to attempt to navigate this without seeing it. Because every single day I forget to charge my phone. Every single day. We'll skip the Q&A part, but I want to talk a little bit about what's coming up this week as the end of the show. I hope that some of the information you heard tonight was important. I know that some of it you've heard in the past, which is great. I mean, reiterating concepts is fantastic. You can always take new things away from it. You can always ask questions, and especially in any of the Discords I mentioned, please go to them and ask the questions. Actually, I haven't posted it all day. Let me do that. If you have any questions, any technical questions, any stream life questions, any Twitch theory questions, any of those Discords that just linked into the chat, you can go there and find answers. I guarantee it. Any one of them. Click one, close your eyes, click one, you go ask a question, you'll find it. Coming up this week, it's an important week. My birthday is this week. There's a birthday stream on Friday. It will be very fun. There are some really cool giveaways. There may be a special hardware giveaway that's getting thrown in